Hello and welcome to another episode of Hearing Other People's Experience Hope. Today I'm really lucky to be joined by Tati Silva, who not only has a personal history of dealing with somebody who is in addiction, but also is a very clever, she's a counsellor, and she's a CBT practitioner. And she combines it with hypnotherapy. And there's many more. I don't want to do a disservice to you by saying more wrong stuff. So why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about you? Nice to have you here.
Oh, welcome. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you so much for the inviting. I'm very excited about it. I speak to a public that has this kind of experience and so on. I think it's part of my life journey too. And I'm a psychotherapist, counseling psychotherapist, as you can call yourself. And I work integratively, which means that I work with I have a little heart full of like wonders, my wonder hearts, and I take different modalities to help people. Because I do believe that people are completely different from each other, and each have one modality doesn't work for everyone. So I like to shape the therapy model with the person and how the person history goes. And I work a lot on that process and so on. And it's been working very well. I've been on the field for the past 8 years. And enjoying very much doing my doctorate now in counseling psychology, because I want to invest more on this topic. And that's me.
Well, it's really great that you see people not as a cookie cutter patient, because I think sometimes I've encountered like, no, she's not that bad because she's not doing this, or and then I had to hear a message that finally resonated with me after months of in and out of recovery, which was painful. So you on the phone yesterday, we had a little chat, and you mentioned about the hypnotherapy and working with the subconscious, like core beliefs, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Could you talk to me a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So the hypnotherapy process goes. My hypnotherapy process doesn't work as I'm going to put you in trance and you're going to, like I'm going to ask you back like a dog. No, it doesn't work like this. You're completely in control, because that is the objective, right? So the person needs to feel in control, needs to be safe, and that's the idea. Then I tailor a script for you, which what you want to work with. Let's say let's get addiction right now, because we're talking about this. And then that person comes in. We will, when I say incorporate CBT, because we do look at the cognitive behavior. What is it that takes you to do? I'm here, my behavior this way, and then I go to take the drugs and go, or whatever your addiction is, and go around that. You work with the front. Let's say I would say that you work with the front of your brain, which is the cognition. Then the hypnotherapy part will then get you into a more relaxed state, where you will then work with your unconscious mind and see and actually either clear whatever is there that has caused that process, or we'll give you intentions or affirmations or kind of like a script where things can be changed and can be done. And we'll work on your synapses to actually stronger it or make it stronger. So that's the kind of like the work that goes together.
So let me see if I'm understanding this, because
sure.
I'm not as quick and understanding as a lot of people are. So this will help me and anybody else like me. When you go into the subconscious, or they're under hypnosis, and then you give them that script, you give them intentions. What's intentions? Is that like, well, it's not happening now, so I'm okay? Is it like that?
Well, I would say like it's kind of in that level of what then you need, right? So for example, I wanted to get over drinking, and I don't want to drink anymore. So the script will be done for you in relation to, so how can we get your brain to understand that you don't need that as much? That's going to be a message on your brain, which is going to go then to the subconscious mind, because the unconscious mind, because then you are more relaxed and you are open for the intention, and then you start going from there. So you would describe this way, right? So and then you are, let's say I want to put a positive affirmation that I won't stop completely, then we will foresee your future how that would look like without it. Yeah. So we work with visualization, so that therefore we create that word for you, because one thing that happens when you are going through the process of the addiction is that your brain keep asking for it. So everything you see around you, the cues, it's all about, I'm craving it, I want it. Because it's a learning, like you're learning it. It's kind of a learning behavior. You end up feeding that learning process and the learning behavior, and therefore you're doing that. Whereas when you need to break that point. So you need to break somehow. And then, of course, therapy and then other modalities will help you with that. CBT helps put a part, I believe that CBT helps put a part of it. Then you have to know what is else behind that process that has caused you to want to escape. Because addiction is an escape, right? You are escaping from something. You're escaping from your world, you're escaping from your traumas, from your past, from whatever actually caused you to get to that point where I really don't deal well with this and I need to go somewhere else. So let me take something or do something that will make me forget.
Yeah.
And that's where you are.
So obviously, if there's any friends and family of alcoholics or addicts or anybody with compulsive destructive behaviors, what is the best advice? Because I always say these people need compassion because I've been there, but it's so hard for them to give compassion to somebody who's stealing from them, puking all over the wall, or cheating, it's, yeah. So I would love it if people could understand that it's the addiction, not the person. The person took the first drink. Now that was their fault. But after that, it shuts down up here.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, what do you think?
I would like to correct you in that.
Oh,
when
go
you
on.
No, when you say like was your fault when you took the front drink? Because I don't believe it was your fault. I believe that there's a purpose and a reason behind why you took that first drink, right? So I think it was not you choosing to, I'm going to take this drink and therefore there's much more below that. In the idea, that is me being compassionate to you and don't want it to be or to everyone else to say because I took the first drink, I need to be blamed for that.
I suppose I'm thinking about when I'd already had a bit of recovery, and so I went back out there.
You went back again,
and I took that drink, and I knew that there was another way, but my brain was like, no, that's not quick enough. And so instead of sitting with my feelings like I had been for the last few months, I decided to press boop, fuck it. And then after that, all of the horrible consequences. So I know that you have been touched by the actions of an addict in your life. I think it would be hard to find anyone that hasn't been, to be honest. But do you want to tell me a little bit about that? Because I think it could really help a lot of people.
Sure, yeah, sure. And like I said to you yesterday, I just don't just work with it, but I also have my own private experience with it too. And it actually wasn't. I mentioned my ex-husband, but I also was even my father. And it's interesting to kind of link one thing to another because my father is someone that I love very much and someone that I would see him, and he was a completely adorable person, very quiet person. When he was sober, when he would drink, he would transform. And I saw that since a very, very, very young age. And I would be between my mom and my dad, and they fight him because my father transformed to a person that I didn't recognize. And that was already part of, with my life. And it gave me I feel that then my behavior with my ex-husband was a kind of a part of also relieving, knowing that my dad would transform, would be an amazing man for me in my eyes, but then transform. Very similar to my ex-husband that was like amazing guy, amazing person, like offer me love and everything else. And more than everything else because I come from the favelas in Brazil, come from nothing.
Really?
Yeah. And then he kind of like offered me a different life, a life that I could never, ever imagine in my life. And so that amazing, generous person, however, would then transform to, or like I mentioned, going benters for 5 days a week, disappear completely. I would not know where he was. And to a point where I was like, I don't know how to deal with this because it's triggered me a lot too. And that part of when we say like family, I now definitely advocate for family to be compassionate, to be dealing with the addiction or the person that's dealing with it in a compassionate, loving way. Because I felt that I felt a little bit guilt, not a little bit, I feel guilt about it, not probably dealing with that part. I do understand, and I forgive myself for that part of me
Good.
too, because of course I know why, because of the experience. Being in the experience is hard for the family member. However, that is not the blame or the shame. The addicted doesn't need more shame and blame, because they already blame themselves. They're already guilting themselves from that process that they're going through. Is they need the understanding and like the love of like, how am I gonna do this? And with my ex-husband, we were together for 10 years, and we had a very up and down relationship. So the last strike, when he kind of went in a bender again, and was when I felt that there was no coming back from him, because I could not see the love in his eyes anymore for me. So I wasn't anymore the person that could bring him back. It had to be his choice. And then, of course, I found out the cheating and everything else that was happening, the process of that. A lot of lying.
Oh, yeah, we're good at that.
Yes, exactly. To a point where my life I would describe like from, the favelas in Brazil to like this princess life where I had everything, to then suddenly I wake up the next day and I was on the streets because he wasn't paying the bills, he wasn't paying anything. Then I had to get pack my things, my luggage with my dog, and I was out on the streets with no place to stay. Luckily I had friends, so I was there. And he also lost completely. So we both lost in a way, him in a different world and I'm in a different world. And that was the journey. And unfortunately, we went to rehab. We tried to get him to, he had those moments of like going very down, very, very low. And I kept in touch with him. I was completely there for him, trying to be there for him, even though he wasn't in the country, but I was trying to be there for him. And then he would call me when he was very low, and I would take him, okay, let's go to a center, let's try to help you. I, constantly trying to, but like we said yesterday, it's a choice. You need to want it, because it's not just the person wants for you. They need to want it that.
Yeah.
And and then to reach a point that November last year, we lost him because he could not take it anymore, and he killed himself.
I'm so sorry for your loss, first of all. Because addiction, like, it will be treated. It will be treated by three things only. The substance, because it shuts your mind up, but we become allergic to the substance, so we can't use it anymore because we've used it too much. So that's one way. Actually getting into recovery that fits you and you can commit to. And third is, unfortunately, committing suicide, which is very, very common among us.
Yeah, because every people can ask me and say, like, do you blame him? Do you think he was selfish? I said no. I guess goosebumps to talk about it. I said I do understand 100% where he was coming from, and I'm not gonna blame him for the choice he made. He could not take anymore, and like you just said, it's like the levels of it. When you reach that level where you're like, I don't know if there is escape anymore, and then that is where he was. And it's interesting that every time that he was thinking about it, but I don't think it was there, he would contact me and we would figure it out. This time, the message that he sent to me was completely different from the previous ones, where he would send with a help. I need help, I'm about to do something. This time he just sent a message as usual, just saying things are tough, I'm feeling distressed, but there was nothing there. And then the next day, so he was ready. Yeah,
it's too much for anyone to take. That amount of emotional pain is too much. And when we've found a method of releasing that pain, that's always worked perfectly. And then eventually by the end, it stops working. And that's when you can go one of two ways, recovery or death. And it's really that black and white. So that, I suppose, has sort of inspired you to help in this area of psychology. I know that you said it's not what you specialize in, but you seem to have some amazing knowledge about it. Like, I wanted to know if someone how can you explain to, let's say there's a mum out there, her son keeps relapsing. There's nothing that she can do about it. She has to accept it. I think when my mum finally accepted, like, if my daughter dies, it's not my fault, then she could sleep at night because I put her through so much. And so I guess there's nothing that you could have done differently to stop that from happening, is basically what I mean. Like, that applies to anything, doesn't it? Like, any situation like this.
Yeah, it does. And you have to remember that the person is not the addiction.
Yes.
Right? They don't wear that t-shirt, that body. That was not your bodysuit. Nope. It's not the addiction. Behind that addiction, there is someone that, which is like, let's say you gave the example of your mom. Her daughter was there. You were there. But of course, the addiction was taking over. And that is pretty much what's happening. Families need to understand that the person is still there. What is talking, what is the behavior that is being doing is not the person 100%, is the addiction, it's part of it. And then people need to see that with other eyes. Yeah, when you accept that is not the combination, is not just one thing, it's split and it's different, then they can start creating compassion. And then compassion even for themselves, the way they feel. Because of course, when you are in the situation, like I was on the other side of the coin. Like I was on the other end of the coin, which is your mom was, where when he's not coming home for weeks, you're thinking, how this person can do that to me? Like, where is the love? Where is that thing? But I wasn't thinking about that he still loved me, but it's not him. It's then what the substance and everything that is taking over him. Because you have to understand that in the brain, there is a cut. When you have the decision maker, which is your prefrontal cortex, which is the front of your brain, is where you make decisions, is where you kind of have the control of the life of saying this is right or wrong. When you are kind of in the addiction or any type of addiction mode, you have a part of your brain that it's not connecting with our prefrontal cortex, right? There's a cut. But why? Because the other part is the other part that are there. You are kind of creating what? You are creating the goals. What is my goal? My goal is to, let's say, escape from reality. Or my goal is to be high. Or my goal is to have this excitement of whatever addiction you have gives to you. Then the main brain, the back brain, which is the dopamine, which shot the dopamines into that area, keep shooting it and keep like feeding it, and you feel more excited. So what happened then is when we talk about the mass of the gray masses in the brain that gets smaller and smaller with the addiction, because that's what's happened. You're kind of cutting down those synapses. But the synapses are getting weaker. The synapse between the communication between the prefrontal cortex and the stimuli is getting weaker. So, and then until to a point where there is no response anymore. It's not that it's not there. It can come back. For example, when you recover and when you're doing better, you're going to have your decision making is going to be better and it's going to be more clear. However, in the moment that you just actually enjoying or seeking for the excitement or seeking for the dopamine, it's not going to be there anymore. It's going to kind of like have a cut.
Yeah, it shuts down.
It shuts down.
So neural pathways. Yeah. I've heard in rehab there's this session that they do where we all have to be like a neuron and like we're part of a brain and we're like
okay.
And so this is like biology for dummies that I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it because it makes sense to me. So all of the neural pathways are very deep. You know, they're very rigid. Like they're like old track marks in the road, okay? And then and cars have been taking that exact route for years and years and years, and the tracks are there. And then and then it's like you try to not fall into that track without any help. It's not really going to work. I think what you said is really important because there's an understanding here that it is a biological, neurological thing. But you can build new pathways.
Yes.
So, like, is that what you meant by synapse, by the way?
Yeah, because the pathways is like the synapse, because we can break them and we can make new ones. Yeah, we can weaken them. For example, like with let's say like with smoking, if you keep like you were smoking, and that snaps off the smoking, the idea of getting the cigarettes and putting in your mouth, and the sensation you have, and so on, keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And that is where you kind of, when you have that you just enforcing it, right? Whereas if you stop it and you start to make that weaker, you're going to create other pathways that was now what is happening, the healthier, let's say, the healthier style. And then where you are, instead of going for the drink, you're actually doing something else. And you kind of creating different behaviors that helps you then now to not just seek for the drinks as an escape, but let's say let's say therapy is one of the things that would go and help you, or a community. Like AA is incredible for that, because one thing that works very well for AA is the idea of the community. Because community is a part of your, not just the recover, but even people cannot live alone. A lonely wolf die.
Yeah,
if they're
absolutely.
alone. And it's the same thing, because when you are in addiction, you feel very lonely. Because you feel people don't understand you. Your family doesn't understand you. Because
you piss them all off.
Yeah. They like I'm pissed them all off. They don't understand me. They don't know what that is for me and why I have to do that. Because there is a why to, right? So why do you going through that? The why is not just because I like it, just because I like the high. You don't like the high. It's not about the liking the high. The high is a pleasure, it's a reward, but it's not everything. And I would say that for me, I don't think addiction is the alcohol is the what causes addiction, or
it could be anything.
No. What causes addiction is the traumas, is the break heart. Like you have a very bad breakup, or the violence, the domestic violence, all those things cause addiction, because you need to escape. The emotional part of your life you need to escape, and when it's tragic, then you have to find a way.
Yeah, exactly. And at some point, I'm like 4.5 years nearly, and at some point I realized that those neural pathways, like, they are still there, but I know that they don't have power over me.
Yeah.
And there was, several times I was trying to get sober for years before I finally managed it. And I remember I was a couple of weeks in, and I just was a greedy cow, and I ate this chocolate without even chewing it, and it was basically just booze, right? And then it's like, zoom, up they go, and they lit up, and off I went for another year. So for people who think that, oh, well, it's just a coke addiction, so, once she gets back from rehab, she'll be able to come out and have a civilized dinner with a glass of wine. But there are still people that think that way. I've met them.
Okay.
And so I just try my best to remain calm and explain, but I'd rather it came from somebody who knows how to articulate it properly. So maybe you could say, like, that they really will drop the expectation that they will ever be able to do that again.
Yeah. No. That's because you surround with cues and triggers.
Yeah.
Look around you. Like you have probably more triggers around you and or cues for you to actually do that than for you not to do it. The power that you have to, the empowerment that you have to do to yourself every single day to get up. That's why let's celebrate 4.5 years celebration. A lot of celebration here, because it's not an easy path. Because for you, it's not getting up and going, oh yeah, let's go and enjoy the day. For you, it's getting up and say, I need to be strong today for not doing it. And going to the world where you have pubs everywhere, whatever your addiction was. I'm not sure it was, but you have triggers everywhere.
Yeah.
Because the addiction will come in different ways, and different triggers and different cues that your brain is gonna still light it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So by having, I have friends and so on, not my clients, but my friends that has gone through this pathway. Now they can stay, like, let's say they can go out and be in a dinner with us and see drinks around.
Yeah.
But for the first few years, no.
I've only recently been able to do that.
Yeah.
And I always have an exit strategy, because when I watch people deteriorate, I'm like, oh my God, I was like that. I was worse than that all the time.
You need to go.
Yeah. And so I will never judge anyone for being pissed, because, like, that's how I spent 10 years. No, 15 or whatever. Anyway, it's a long time. And so, yeah, it's not great. You're in intensive care at the beginning. That's what I tell people. Like, the first year is intensive care on a life support machine.
Yeah.
Keep it really small.
Yeah.
You can't just go out and sit in a pub with your friends. No. I was quite lucky that when I got into recovery, it was locked down.
Oh, I
and
see.
so
Okay.
I usually wandered into a pub. You know, that's how it would start usually, my relapse.
Oh, okay.
And so that was off the table. So that was something good that came out of it for me. The best, I might even be dead, like if I'd carried on. My body was failing, you know, all that stuff. So the reason that even though their body is failing, their child has been taken away from them, they're homeless, they're now on the park bench. I call this fictional character Park Bench Guy. He wasn't always on that park bench. He used to be a little boy with toys and I don't know, he used to be a little innocent child. Yeah. And so I think, you know, it's easy to look down at these people. I know that a lot of my viewers, and me especially, are quite visual. So I like to see a picture rather than hear words a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So I understand that you've brought some diagrams with you. So
Yes.
I love them and I would love to have a look at them.
Fantastic. So I have to give the credit to Mark Lewis. He's one of Professor Mark Lewis. I really like his work, one of his works. So there's other people that I like too. But then he did, I brought this because it shows pretty much how the brain functionality. Of course, it's what happens here is like the prefrontal cortex here, where we said that the decision making is done, where you have the learning process, where it's like what is right and wrong, it's in this front. Then we have the stratum, which we call motivational engineering, which this one is more in the middle here. And it's motivational because it's going to motivate you to get a goal. And that's the one that works with let's say, with the addiction or whatever type of addiction you have. Because the middle brain, where it's this part here, where the dopamine pumps, it pumps straight to the stratum to do what? To motivate you to go somewhere and do something. And then you would then connect it to the prefrontal cortex and say, is this good or bad for you? But at some point, that's why there is this line here, that communication stops. And that's when you kind of like just go every time you're craving it. And then there is the learning process, which was like this one that I brought here, which is more the learning intensification, how that becomes, I would say, like intensified habit, right? Because from you have your triggers and cues, like we explained before, you in the pub, you go around, you have your cues and triggers everywhere. Then you start basically craving it. Then there is the imagination, which our imagination is very fertile. And then you go for the using. So you intensify these two, the triggers and the cues. Then you start doing what? First, you have the relief. Then you learn that gives you that relief and it's good for you. But then when you stop, you don't use it, there is the loss. And then there is that drop, because you have the drop and you're like, I want to do it again. So you start the whole process again. You start the triggers is there, then you have the craving, then you have the imagining and using it, and then you go. And it becomes a development. So you develop that process in a part of your brain more and more. And when we talk about synapses, that's what you're doing. You kind of, it's like if I get a pen and I like keep scrubbing on top of this little pathway.
Yes.
And say, keep doing it. And then it becomes stronger. So when you see what is in control now, is that part of you, no longer, the element of the addictions part of is in control.
The tire tracks are there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly the tire tracks is a very good example that you used.
Well, thank you. I mean, that is really useful because obviously, you know, it doesn't always, it sometimes it's quick to get to that and sometimes it's slow. Sometimes, you know, it's a slow burner, but eventually you do end up in that cycle and it's cut off and then it's like, who knows what's going to happen. So I think that pretty much explains why compassion is quite necessary.
Yeah.
You know, park bench guy, he wasn't always park bench guy. He was a little kid, an innocent little kid. And he's just got something messed up in his brain, which has led to this. And it's a lot of other factors, like you said, social.
Yeah, the social.
Social, like, it's all around me, trigger. And then I used to, on purpose, you know, surround myself with people who drank worse than I did. Because there's, I'm not quite there yet, so I'm fine.
Yeah.
And it's all that denial.
Yeah.
And you can't get anyone out of denial. They have to kind of do it themselves. But if somebody really wants to help, do they give the person a wake-up call? Or is tough love ever a good idea, or is it not, in your opinion?
Well, that's the thing. When we spoke about the compassion, tough love is not much with compassion, because you will have to tell them, if you don't do this, I'm not gonna do this for you anymore, or if you don't stop, I'm not gonna be here. There's always, unfortunately, a little manipulation on top of it, and it's like saying no to a kid. Right? If you say no to the kid, what do the kid want to do? They're gonna do more. They want to do more, right? Because they're like, no, I'm gonna do it. I'm curious. I want to do more. And unfortunately, you already have the cravings. You already have the triggers, and on top of it, your willpower element is much weaker, right? Because it's no longer that on you. So the tough love not always work, and that's where we came back into the idea of like community, love, and telling them, I see you, I understand, I can see you, I see you and understand you, and I'm gonna accept that, and then you do the work, because you have to do the work. I can go in my therapy room, I can go to my client. I cannot take my clients and say, I'm going to stop drinking for you. I'm going to stop doing that for you. I can't.
Yeah.
What I can do for them is like, let's understand. What it does it for you?
Yeah.
What is the, the excitement that whatever you're addicted
reward.
to? What is the reward? Because what happened here, then we have to speak about the quick reward, right? Like because that's what it is. This is quick. It's happening quick. It's a quick reward. You're not thinking about the future.
No.
Because you don't even want to think about the future. Because if you think about it, it's like, ooh, the future is like, they're going to leave me. My family is going to hate me. And so, no, let's not go there. So I want it now.
Yeah.
So you're not going to talk to your friend and say like, oh, let's get high next week. You don't talk to them about that. You want to get high now.
Yeah.
You don't plan for next year. The goal is not next week. The goal is now.
Yeah.
So we have to start asking the family, helping the family to help the person that is in need to acknowledge the future, to understand how they can have a future, and then help them to understand the past. It's a past and future thing, because the present is the addiction. The present is whatever they addict to, the drug, the alcohol, the smoke, whatever it is the present for them. So they're scared of the future. They don't want to look at that, because even when they look at that, they look with the present eyes, which is like, I'm an alcoholic, let's say. Then when you look, it's like the future for me looks like there's no one there.
Yeah.
I'm alone.
Unbearable.
So I don't want to go there. Let's put it on the back burner. And then the past, I don't want to go there too. That's just scary.
Oh God, the idea of going into hangover, and like when I was on a binge or a bender or whatever, by the end it was just me on my own with wine. Like the idea of coming into hangover and having to deal with those ghosts was unthinkable. Like forget about it.
Yeah.
And I think obviously if somebody is making promises like we do, like and telling lies and cheating and all that stuff, it's very, very hard to show that person compassion. And sometimes what I suggest to people who ask me for advice, obviously I'm not professional, but I do know about drinking. I say that the most loving thing that sometimes you can do is to stop enabling, because you're depriving that person of the rock bottom, which might get them well.
Exactly.
And rock bottom, I find, has trapdoors. So it's not one place. You can always go lower.
Go lower.
Yeah. But you know what? The reality is that there is a solution, and it's not the same for everyone. It's different for different people. And I think when the person is willing, the solution will be presented. Genuinely willing, like in their soul. I said I was willing, and I probably meant it a few times, but my soul had not had enough. So I know that you're a bit spiritually like me, and I used to see like the addiction as like this evil banshee that sat on my shoulder and was just like, come on, have a drink, you know. But now I have a nice one, it's the recovery fairy, and so
that's nice to see.
Yeah, and so what do you think? I really do believe that you invite dark energies into you when you lose that wall. you know? I don't know, what do you is that too ookie kooky?
No, it's what you believe, right?
I think
we have
so.
different ways to see that. And I do believe I believe in energy too, which means that if you think about a place where you go for, let's say, you go to a party and everyone's taking drugs and so on, or everyone is in alcohol, and the energy level there doesn't feel very positive and nice. It takes people to a very dark place, right? I'm not against that at all. Like there is ways to enjoy and there is happy ways to enjoy and so on, but there is energy around you. Like right now we're exchanging energy.
Yeah.
Right? There's a type of energy here. We are here for an objective, and the objective is like helping other people, helping families understanding how that doesn't work when you have someone in your life. That's light and positive. And if you look at even the kind of like the levels of energy, if you look at love and gratitude, that they is much higher level of energy. And if you would look at hate, there is much lower energy level. So, and that's when you're attracting, like when you said about this little attraction of this darkness, of this ghosts and these demons, it is the lower energy that is around you, right? Because you are, unfortunately, mentally, let's say spiritually, your soul is low, you're mentally low, your body is low, because even your body's like, ugh.
Let me sleep one night, please.
Exactly. How is it that basically like when you hungover, you just like this, literally like you don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
Your body, so everything is connected. This is what is my belief for sure.
I agree with you on that. Definitely agree with you. And also, you know, it's confusing for people because you say like when you go into a party, everyone seems like they're having fun. It looks that way. But if we took all of that away, that would be in one miserable place. Like these people, they won't remember the connection that they've made because they were there for the booze or whatever it was that they wanted. Not everyone is an addict, right? So some people can go and have a drink and genuinely have a nice time. But then there's a lot of people like me who would go there, you know, claiming that it's because I want to see this person or that person, or to have a business meeting with someone, you know, something lame like that. I used to say that, but really it was like, there's going to be booze there and I'm not going to have to pay for it, you know.
So you had your excuse, right? So you're like, okay, this is my excuse. Okay, great. I can drink as much as I can because it's there.
It's free. They're giving it to me.
Yeah.
I mean, and you know what? People probably noticed that I was like sort of drinking all their drinks, but that didn't help with business. If that's what I was there for, you know, you get a reputation so quick, but I do think that reputations can be rebuilt.
Yes, you can.
And nobody can give you, you know, we are given labels all of our lives, especially when I find as a woman, my experience. It was like when I was a teenager, she's fat, she's lazy, she's going nowhere, she doesn't care, she's messy. And then I took that into adulthood with me.
Yes.
And then the shame of that just snowballed everything, you know, and I've only realized that recently. But your story is so inspirational. And I know that you're not an addict or never been an addict, but you are a very great example to young people. So you said earlier that you were from the favelas in Brazil.
Yeah.
So, and you literally started there with nothing, and now you live here in London with a successful practice. I mean, just hang on a minute. Let's just appreciate that and celebrate that for a minute, because that is, I want young girls to look at you and see what's possible. So could you just tell me your story again? Thank you.
Of course. First, I appreciate you to give me this space of like telling this story. I feel that, it's good to go back and appreciate. It wasn't easy. So I do come from the favelas in Brazil, where, as I don't know if people know, the audience know, is the ghettos, where we call favelas, the ghettos in Brazil, where it's poverty line is what exists there, with survival mode. How can work and make money for the next day? There is never like a dream for the future. We don't dream much, like we can't, because because then you take you to that spiral of like, I don't have anything. And that's pretty much where it was. We don't have anything. Schools was difficult, and there was always the basic of the basic. I wanted to get out. I wanted to figure out how could I do better. Wasn't until late in life, I was 25 when I first came here. Now I'm 45. So
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to talk after. Yeah, carry on.
So 45 now. So and was 25, came here, no English whatsoever, nothing. From like a help with one friend that said I can give you a job and a place to live. I was living immigrant life with 8 people in one apartment of 8 with 2 bedrooms only. And then working as a cleaner. But one thing that I agree with myself was I wanted to learn the language, and I don't want to be illegal here. So I need to figure out ways. And one of the ways was actually to study and do university degree and so on. Another dream of mine, because no one in my family my mom doesn't know how to read and write, so she cannot read and write, and my dad the same. So I was like, I need to change. I need to break that chain. I need to break down that link, that ancestral link of we cannot do it, we don't have enough, and so on. And that's what I tried to do. Then I came over. London, England definitely gave me an incredible opportunity. I met amazing friends, but also my ex-husband, which was someone very, very positive in my life in relation to show me different parts of life and give me a life of like stability for a little while. Then again, you drop again, you go down, which happens after we separated. I didn't have nothing, so I had to restart it all again. But the resilience of I need this and I want this was with me all the time, because I could not go back to Brazil to my life, because I was like, not because of ego or anything, just because like I know what was waiting for me there, and I didn't want it there anymore. I didn't want that anymore. So yeah, and then I definitely started my private practice. I did my master's degree in counseling and psychotherapy. Now I'm doing my doctorate. So first in the family of graduate from university, from a master, and I'm so grateful for everyone that crossed my path, even those people that was not so positive, because they also taught me so much.
Teachers, that I call them teachers, or assignments from the universe.
Yeah.
And if you don't do your assignment, you get it again.
You get it again.
That's how I dated the same guy for about 15 years in different bodies. You know.
No, I agree. Yeah, you need to learn, and they will come back for you. I'm very proud of the life that I have in Brazil. I'm very proud of being where I come from. Very proud of it, because it gave me the base of everything. It made the values that I have today. It comes from there first, because even though coming from that community that poverty is everywhere, there was a community. We are looking after each other, you know, and that is one thing that was I sometimes don't see here.
It's true. It's true. Like some people, I grew up in London, so I didn't really even know my neighbours very well.
Yeah.
I knew the girls at school because I went to posh school at the other side of London, and I lived in, you know, a modest area.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely not like anything like a ghetto of any kind. It was just very, very normal, I guess, middle class.
Yeah.
But I really, really love talking to you, and I think we should have you on again. And I'm just going to have a look here. Yes. So resources for people to see. Do you have like a top 3 or?
Yeah. Well, resources is starting from the idea of like, I want this. I start from yourself, the person that is going through that, kind of coming to that consensus. When you come to that consensus, just definitely say, I'm ready, because help will be there for you. We have so much on the NHS for addiction that helps. A lot of them are for free. You can go to, if you want to go through that, you go to a GP and you can even get help to stop smoking with the medicine and so on. You can have all that. But I would definitely, you need to go to the root. And for me, going to the root is that it has to be therapy. You have to go to the root by talking about it. It's one of the hardest things to do sometimes, because you don't want to go there, but definitely find someone that you relate to, because the therapeutic relationship is very, very important. And I say that to people that come to me to work, because sometimes I say, look at all therapeutic relationships, sometimes it doesn't work, and I'm okay with it. You can go find someone else, because that is a base for you to trust. Because one thing also that you lose throughout this process of being around the addiction and so on is the trust. Because you already don't have the trust on yourself, right? That you can do it and so on. Then you don't trust people around you, because everyone's pointing the finger to you, say like, you bad, you bad, you bad. So who are you going to trust? And figuring out that mechanism. And again, community, people around you, your system, your support system, very important. It doesn't need to be your family. I'm going to say that because a lot of families don't accept it.
It probably can't be for a lot of people.
For a lot of people, cannot be. So it does, but some people might think that when we say that the support system is the family, no, it doesn't. It can be the person that you choose to.
Yeah.
You can choose those people. It might be people on the rehab, if you go to rehab. We know a lot of people cannot go to rehab because it's quite expensive, right? So if you cannot go to rehab, there is free support that is out there too.
Like a medical detox?
Yeah, like medical, whatever kind of like the beginning process. I believe that you can talk even better than me how it works, the beginning process, because it's the idea of like, I think people are lost a little bit of where to go and what to do.
Yeah, so I think to get into what's really important, and I say all the time, is that if you are alcohol dependent, I'm sorry, but don't stop cold turkey on your own.
Oh, no,
because you can actually die. Like you can have a seizure. I remember feeling close to it at one point. I'd been on a bender for about 5 days. God knows how much I had to drink. And I was literally, and I felt my heart and I was sweating, and it was just like really scary. So I'm lucky that I think at the time I was fit and young enough to weather it. But it's very important to get your body cleansed of it before you can actually think and go into recovery properly. I know that 12-step fellowships work for millions of people. They have done for 90-something years, I think, or somewhere around that mark. Yeah. And it's free. Exactly. But also rehab, if there is funding for some rehabs, it just, is the person going to live long enough to get the funding? Not always. And also when they get there, usually as addicts, we do not like being told where to go and what to do. We hate it. In fact, I'm still a bit that way a lot of the time, but I've learned to be open-minded. When I'm open-minded, I can take suggestions, even if they piss me off at first. So yeah, after the medical detox, I can't afford rehab, would you say the next best step would be like a sober community? Yeah. Because again, you can find those for free, right? So you have the sober community, or let's say AA, that you have the sponsorship, and you have people that will be there for you, and they know your language, they know what you went through and what you're going through, whatever step you are, they know, and that's what it is. It's forming that community around you, the support community around you, that understands that gives you love and compassion, not give you things to do and you have to do this because otherwise you won't get better. You need a place such as this. I remember like all I needed was compassion, and it was impossible to give that to me from my family because of the consequences, like everything that I put them through. Missing Christmas one year, them not knowing where I was, having to go to the hospital to pick me up. That's of course my family's going to be protecting themselves by that, But then when I found other people who had been where I was, it was like all of a sudden I felt just unconditional love, support. And even though I didn't get sober immediately, I did through the wisdom of the people that came before. Yeah. So it's wonderful.
Yeah, because you feel that they know what you're talking about without even saying too many words.
They're nice to you as well. No one's nice to you at that time.
Yeah, because they've been through that too, right? So they know that. So build a community around you for sure. But of course, do some of the work, when you're ready to do it. Yeah. Right, without the pressure of do the work, which will be that you will need, again, to be able to have a structure in your own house where you don't have the cues and triggers around you. You might not be able, like we spoke before, to go to places for a little bit of time, you know, like for how many times or years you need.
Yeah.
But you need to understand those are going to be some of the practical things that you need to do in order to feel better about it, to get better, to get where you want to get.
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, it's all good, I think.
I think we've covered a lot today. I have got so much to think about now. It was really, really eye-opening. And thank you for the diagrams, because that's how it gets in here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you've been wonderful. And we'll put your links and stuff below.
Thank you. Yeah.
Just there. Okay. Yeah. Right, so just put them there. All right. So, yeah, thanks a lot for watching, Hope. And I really hope that you got a lot, as much as I did, out of this episode.
Oh, thank you again.
Thank you.
Give me a hug.
You're the best.